Is it actually possible to turn your life around with a good routine? Well, I've been unemployed for the past 9 months, and I've had very little structure with my life. And I think it's about time I change that. I've always felt like a fixed routine wasn't for me for several reasons. I generally have a hard time sticking to one thing and doing the same thing repeatedly. I also know that my schedule can vary a lot on a day to day or a weekly basis. And I always felt like I would get discouraged if I had managed to build a streak and then have to break it just because life happens. And so it felt like it was pointless to even start. So when I came across Haley Honeyman's ADHD routine video, I thought, this actually sounded like something that would work for me, as it gave you different options to adjust based on your day to day motivations and energy levels. She calls it the Honeyman Method, and I highly recommend watching her video if you want to get more information and see how you can build a similar routine for yourself. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing how I built my version of a routine that I think hopefully works for me. Step 1, defining my routines. Before getting into building my actual routine, I want to establish my priorities going into this. Number 1, I want to fix my sleep schedule. I know that there's a lot of content out there highly endorsing being a super early morning riser. However, that's just not feasible for me. I have weekly events that are recurring that end up going late into the night. So I'm trying to keep the timing realistic. The main goal is to get my 8 hours of sleep, but I do still want to be waking up reasonably in the morning and avoid sleeping in till like noon and wasting half the day away. Number 2, I want to improve my physical fitness, specifically by integrating daily movement and exercise. I tend to go 0 to 100 when it comes to physical activities. Like for 2 or 3 days a week, I will have really intense activities. And then for the couple of days in between those activities, I will literally be doing nothing and just be at home sitting all day. And I'd rather have a better baseline of consistent activity to make sure that my overall health is in a better place and to make sure that I'm maintaining key things like mobility, flexibility, and overall strength, just for my general wellness. Number 3, I want to make household chores feel like normal daily casual tasks instead of having to be this big dramatic type of event. I live with my sister, and we both have a tendency to put off very simple household maintenance things like laundry, cleaning the living room, cleaning bathrooms, washing the dishes, and kind of let those things pile up for a duration of time. Because of that, doing chores feels like it has to be this major event that I have to block out a whole day for and do everything all at once and then kind of let it all go and let it pile up again until the next time. And I'd rather those things feel like smaller maintenance actions that I can do often, regularly, and whenever, as opposed to requiring a really big amount of activation energy just to get it done and having to block off a whole day just to deal with household chores. And lastly, I want to minimize my decision fatigue to make room for creativity and to lessen my decision paralysis to improve my time management. These are both things that I experience pretty frequently. And usually these moments of indecision are what leads to my picking up my phone and then doom scrolling on social media for extended periods of time. So I want these routines to integrate methods for me to avoid falling into that kind of a rabbit hole. There are 3 key features to these new routines that I've built. First off is having routine options based on the Honeyman Method. This entails having a high energy, high motivation routine for days that I feel like I can tackle the full extent of an ideal routine. Also having a middle range option titled the most likely routine, and a minimal option for those low energy, low motivation days. I did add an extra feature to Haley's method by integrating time as a factor in my routines, where the ideal option is the longest to complete and the minimum routine takes the least amount of time. I feel like for me personally, energy and motivation isn't the only or not even the main factor that decides how I want to prioritize my tasks, but often it's actually hinged on how much time I think I have. So, for example, if I find myself waking up pretty late one day, I think I have less perceived time to get ready. And therefore, I would want to execute a shorter, more minimal routine versus if it's a very chill open day where I have no commitments and I think I have plenty of time to go through my morning routine, I would want to tackle the more ideal option or the longer option, sometimes irrelevant to where my energy levels are, simply because low energy means I can go slower. On the flip side, for my evening routines, this also applies where if I'm coming home late from an activity like a dance event or something like that, I know that I'd like to get myself to bed much sooner. And so I would probably reach for the shorter, more minimal routine, even though technically I probably have a lot more energy just coming back from some type of activity. This feature doesn't fundamentally change the Honeyman method all that much. It's just a slight shift of perspective that resonates a bit better with how I personally think and how I perceive my own schedule, and tends to fit better with how I prioritize tasks and how I make my choices. So when I was creating these different options for routines, I was taking into account how long I thought each task might actually take. And some tasks are variable, in which I could possibly choose to do a quicker version of that task or a longer version of the same thing, depending on which option of a routine I decided to go with. Which brings me to my next feature, creating task option menus. I'm someone who really likes having variety and having different options to avoid perpetual repetitiveness. But I am also someone who struggles with indecision when given too many options. So for any tasks that are variable, I created a short list of options to choose from. For example, for morning workouts, if I'm following my ideal routine that day and have time for a longer workout, I could choose between either going out for a long walk or doing a full at-home pole workout, which requires a warm-up, stretch, and conditioning before I can even actually get on my pole. If I have less time, I could follow a online workout program that might take 30 minutes or so. And if I have even less time, I could do a quick self-guided stretch session that might take 15 minutes max, just to get myself moving and wake up my body. Some of my task menus aren't even part of the routines that I have listed, but they are options to fill my working day or fill in any gaps and time blocks that I might have free. And just having them somewhere where I can see them and be able to look at a list and know that any of these options are viable, where I can pick the one that sounds the most appealing to me at the given point in time, makes it more likely for me to actually do them. And these lists are meant to be constantly changing. I might be adding stuff as I think of more options, but having this list also lets me keep an eye on if it's been a while that I haven't done something, or there are certain things that should be happening on a recurring schedule-ish. And finally, there is habit tracking and gamifying my system. So along with the routines to follow, I built a habit tracker to let me check off my daily achievements and keep track of parts of the routine that I've actually managed to complete. I made mine from scratch on Google Sheets. Since I kept my routine list on Notion anyways, it was just easier to keep them both on pinned tabs in my browser. Part of the habits that I'm trying to work on is daily journaling. I have only recently started to journal, just like a couple of months ago, and I don't actually do it very often. I find myself journaling only once every few weeks whenever I feel like I have the time to sit down, because I was always grappling with my sleep schedule and getting myself ready to get to bed on time. And so if I felt like I didn't actually have time to sit down and write, I would skip journaling that night. So integrating it into my new routine has actually helped me stick with doing it on a daily basis. But a very important aspect that has made that much more appealing is the introduction of very specific prompts. This habit tracking system and these specific journaling prompts are actually from a video by Swift Films. If you are interested in learning more, I would highly recommend checking out that video as well. Having these 3 simple and specific prompts to answer at the end of each day made it so that this task didn't feel as daunting and as dramatic as sometimes I feel like I perceive journaling to be. The simplification of it made it so that I knew that it would not take a lot of time and makes it a lot harder for me to try and avoid it or find an excuse to skip it because it really doesn't take long and doesn't take much effort to do. I still also have a free form journal entry option for days that I have a lot more time and have more thoughts and really feel like I need to brain dump somewhere. But knowing that I can just do the 3 short prompts as an option and still check that box off of my tracker still gives me the reward for accomplishing something, even if it's not everything. Step 2, test out the new routines. I tried filming daily check-ins, but it's literally been 3 days since I started this, so they feel a little pointless to include. But I have some early reflections from my experience so far. I've been really happy about how my nighttime routine is set up. Having a very clear set of instructions of what I should be doing has drastically reduced my procrastination to get ready to go to sleep. Typically, if I'm not staying up late actually doing something like editing a video, it's because I'm just procrastinating, just trying to avoid taking a shower. So this cycle just pushes my bedtime later and later and later for absolutely no reason. And on top of that, I'll still go on my phone and scroll in bed, fighting the urge to sleep. And so I purposefully built my ideal routine to start really early and actually end with a large gap of kind of free time or leisure time just before actually going to bed. I find that that block of time gives me a chance to catch up on if I feel like there are any tasks that I missed out on, or if I just want to fit in something casual like, I don't know, painting my nails. In the past, I've noticed that I generally have a hard time actually settling down, especially after my shower, because I find that I have a lot of kind of shower thoughts that come up, and those floating ideas and plans and whatnot kind of build up and get stuck in my head. And so building my routine in this way where there's a block of time after my shower, I journal and write down my thoughts and then have extra free time to do more things if I wanted to, gives me enough time to actually come back down and relax and let my energy levels come down and let my thoughts ease out and basically settle down. The first couple of days, I found that in that 2-hour block, I would either be finishing up laundry or watching a YouTube video or give myself permitted time to actually be scrolling on social media. And because it's like a dedicated time where I am allowed to do that, I don't feel as guilty about it and as dreadful about it. My mornings in general haven't been as successful. I don't actually think I've been able to do my ideal option of a routine just yet, but I do definitely think that that is a time dependent issue. And that because this past week, just before I started this routine, my sleep schedule had gotten so messed up where I was going to bed at 2 to 4 a.m. consistently. Now that my nighttime routines have been going well and I've been going to bed earlier or at a reasonable time, my body is catching up on the lost sleep, which I'm not complaining about. I am trying to allow myself to wake up when my body actually feels ready. So I think this first week is definitely just my body kind of trying to recover from the mess that it was in last week. And I think waking up earlier will be coming with time as long as I'm keeping my sleep schedule consistent. Overall, I feel like this is really promising. And yeah, I'm excited to see how this pans out as I keep doing it. Step 3, see results, or plan to. In full transparency, I built these routines and filmed this video all within the same week. So it's only been a few days of me actually implementing these, and it has not been long enough to have any real results. But I just wanted to share the process of how I built these routines, just in case anyone might be thinking of also introducing some new structure into their life and maybe want to build their own and follow along, and we can all check back in a few months and see how it's all going. So without being too specific about a date, I will eventually be posting a follow-up video to this one to share any progress and or adjustments I may have needed to make, or if I've unlocked the secrets to the universe because I've optimized my life. I won't, but if you want to see that, I guess you should subscribe to this channel and bear witness to the rest of the chaos that I'll be sharing in the meantime. Or not, you don't have to. But either way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.